This is Tammy from Spot On Psychic Readings. Thanks for coming in for coffee chat today with my friends Sparky and Chippy. And I just wanted to come in and give you guys some thoughts of the week and see what's going on in your lives. And it's been interesting reading your comments and seeing what you're interested in. You know, I put out that survey a while back about things that you might be interested in, you know, the choices being UFOs or 5D or things like that. So most people said they're really interested in 5D and all other subjects. I want to tell you about an experience I had this week with Sparky, actually. You know, I trained Sparky for dog shows and we were practicing a cookie game. So yeah, cookie game. So I was taking the cookie, I was telling him to stay, and I was putting the cookie on the ground, and I was you know, telling him to stay and then directing him to get the cookie. So I put it down one time and I, you know, went to point to it. And when I went to point to it, my right hand literally pixelated, you know, like digital things pixelate. I thought I was dematerializing. Seriously, my hand just like was turning into dots. And so was the floor. There was a wood floor down there, and it didn't, you would think it would scare me, right? It didn't scare me. I got really excited, and I looked over at Sparky to see if he was dematerializing or pixelating too. And when I went to look over at him, everything went back to normal. I was like, oh, I thought for sure, you know, I was going into 5D and Sparky was going too, and all my loved ones. And you know, this is what I've been seeing with 5D is we're all gonna go together, especially our pets. You know, they're a higher vibration than most of us most of the time. And I was, you know, I've been shown like a lot of us are preparing our homes in 5D. I don't know if you guys have had dreams about new houses that you're moving into. YouTube is not sending out notifications. I don't know why. So if you want to see my videos, you probably have to click on my channel and then look at the tabs. And one of the tabs says videos, and you can click on videos and it'll get you to all the videos. I don't know if you all have been having dreams or not about moving into new houses, but I've had several, and one of them has been my house, and it literally is the size of like a coliseum, which is really crazy. And the other night I had a dream about somebody else who was moving into a house. I was helping them move, and theirs was like the size of a coliseum too. And I was helping them put a fireplace insert into one of many fireplaces that were in this huge structure. And don't you know, the next day after I had this dream, I went to a yard sale they were having, and they had a fireplace insert out on the sidewalk that they were selling. And when they went to turn it around, it was exactly the one in the dream. So I'm not sure exactly what the correlation was of that fireplace insert, but it was almost like them getting rid of it out of the old house. It's like it's going to get fixed when it goes into 5D and go into the new house or something. It was the strangest thing ever. I've also heard from other people that they're dreaming about houses. They're seeing visions of houses they've never seen before or ever thought about living in before. And I've been shown by people on the other side that when we get into that fifth dimension energy, you know, there won't be a need for food. So there won't be a food chain, and there won't be animals who are scared, where animals are not afraid of us and they're not afraid of each other anymore. And they'll all get along, they'll all play together, you know. Some people are already having dreams and visions about other astral kind of places, and I think that those will translate into 5D as well. There's one I can think of that I go to this beautiful stream sometimes, and I can literally walk on the water. And sometimes I lay on the water, but I walk with my hands. I pull myself on with my hands floating, and it's very beautiful. And there's another astral place that I sometimes visit that I hope will be in the 5D too, and it's a pet store. And in this pet store, when you walk in, there are fish flying all through the air, right? like tropical fish, big, big fish, everything just right around. And you can swim with them. The whole pet store is like an aquarium. But the whole thing is it doesn't have water. It looks like water, but it's like you're swimming in the air with the fish. So sometimes we're just drawn to certain places, like you ever just drawn to go someplace you've never been before? Maybe it's been there the whole time. Like you've lived near it, but you just never went there, and then all of a sudden you do, and maybe some whole magical occurrence happens. That happened to me this week. I went to this little shop in my town that just reopened, and I think, it got shut down a couple of years ago in 2020, and now it's just now reopened. And I was having this thought the day before. I was like, I wish old bookstores, still existed, where you could just go in and like pick up physical books and, see what's in them and just be drawn to them in the way that I'm usually drawn to books, because I love to read. And so I went in this little store, and it was just so magical. It had the exact gift I needed to get for somebody. And it had just the exact card I needed. And then I turned around, and this whole other room was books. It was a whole bookstore. And of course, they had a whole section, unbelievably, they had a whole section of like New Age books, psychic books, and things like that, which of course appealed to me a lot. And then I was really excited. I found this book. And this is an old book by Ruth Montgomery. Okay, this is The Herald of the New Age. I don't know if you're familiar with Ruth Montgomery or not, but she's one of my favorites, so I had to buy this little paperback. And I read this book by Ruth Montgomery. She's a channel, she channels guides as well. And she had written this book called Aliens Among Us, if you've ever heard of it. And I read it like back in the 80s, a long time ago. And when I read it, she had a whole chapter in there about a man who was an artist, and he teletransported to all kinds of different planets. And he was actually able to verify that he had been to these planets when he went and went to some kind of a meeting and met somebody who had also been to one of these planets, and they both described seeing each other, like they remembered each other even though they'd never met. So he's the real deal, and his name is William Goodlett, if you've ever heard of William Goodlett. Anyway, there's a whole chapter about him in Aliens Among Us, and what he said is, they come here too. We don't just go there to visit them, they come here too. And I'm sure some of you may have met human beings that seemed very not Earth-like. He was like, sometimes like the ones that he had met, they were trying to ride a bike, and they were asking about the store that didn't exist, and they couldn't keep their feet on the pedals of the bikes, and they were almost falling off. And he said they were like, like older teenagers, like they should have known how to ride a bike, but they didn't. And they were asking about like some kind of certain food or sandwich that didn't exist, like, or they didn't know some kind of food that was very common. They're like, oh, that's a sandwich, that kind of thing. So I got to the end of the chapter about William Goodlett and realized he was in the same town that I lived in, which was amazing. So I tracked him down, I called him, he said, yeah, I have groups of people over to my house, like, once a month or whatever, because they're curious, especially since that book came out from Ruth Montgomery. And so anyway, long story short, I went and heard him speak twice at his house and looked at his drawings of all these different planets. So it was really like amazing. He's since passed, he's in spirit. I hope he hears me talking about him and comes to visit me. But that was really amazing, the stories that he told, and seeing all of his art, that he did, drawings of places, that he had been on in other planets. And I bring that up because many of us have been to other planets. Maybe you're teletransporting. Maybe you know you are, maybe you don't. Maybe you've seen them come here. All of them are friendly. I mean, you don't want to get involved with the grays, for sure. But the extraterrestrials that he was in contact with were very wise, very kind, very different. He could go there and somehow they would almost loan him a body, almost like an avatar, and he could be in their environment, you know, because some of them, you know, weren't at all like Earth. So if you get a chance to read Ruth Montgomery's book, Aliens Among Us, it's really worth it, you know. I'd love to hear some of what your favorite books are. Another one of my favorite books is Return of the Bird Tribes by Ken Carey. It's totally channeled and it's pretty amazing. Again, it came out in the early 90s or right at the end of the 1980s, so it's an older book, but it's been so relevant all these years, and it had a huge effect on my life, the bird tribes. And some of you may be part of the bird tribes like I feel that I am. The bird tribes was a group of very spiritual beings who left the earth, couldn't deal with the harshness of the earth anymore. And as the book was channeled, it talks about how they will be returning. And they're returning when we become, as a culture, spiritual enough, you know, when we catch up with them so they can stand to come back, you know, basically is what, you know, is what it says. And they put it nicer than that, but that's the truth of it. They can't stand this earth plane like a lot of us can't stand this earth plane because of the harshness and the insanity, you know, that's going on. So one of the things that was most interesting that he said in the bird tribes is there will be triggers that start to awaken humanity before they come back. And some of those triggers are songs, you know, some of those triggers are books. There will be certain songs that maybe really speak to you that you listen to over and over again because it's almost like you feel on some level there's a message for you. You know, there's a message in that song. It may not be the actual words, it may not be an actual message, but you're feeling something. It's awakening something in you, and it could just be through the pitch, it could be through the tone, it could be through the melody, it could be the actual words. And when you start really hearing that sort of thing and feeling it, just know it's, you know, it's one of those triggers that they're awakening humanity. And I feel like we're right there on the edge of being awakened. And we're getting there. And when my hand pixelated last week, I mean, it's been less than a week ago now, my hand did that pixelating thing and I was dematerializing for just a second in time. I knew, like, our reality is shifting. What I've been told is when we turn that corner altogether, you know, when we actually do dematerialize, pixelate, whatever we're going to do, and go into that 5D reality, you know, all of our loved ones will be going with us. All of our pets will be going with us. I've even been shown that important items that we have can go with us because it'll be in an energy form. So if you have something that was really special that belonged to you, like maybe a ring or like a painting or that you had done, or, you know, something along that line, that it most likely will be there. It'll be there in the fifth dimension. I've been shown the actual earth is like this, and it's going to split into two when it happens. And I've also been shown that there are going to be changes with the moon that come right before that split happens in the earth, where there's old earth, new earth. And I've actually, some of what I've seen is the moon, crazy as this sounds, will fall out of the sky. I know that sounds crazy, but I know a lot of people too are noticing changes in the moon. It's like sometimes it's not the right shape, or it's not in the right place in the sky. Depending on where you are. I mean, there have been a lot of changes just in physical reality recently, because I think it's pixelating too. Now, the flip side of what's going on right now with all this beautiful reality that we're moving into, this beautiful fifth dimension, is that, you know, there is always a dark side. At least in this realm, there's a dark side that always wants to throw things off. And what I'm seeing is, and what I've heard too, is some of what's going on is they're literally messing with some people's dreams. You know, sometimes we're having dreams that just don't make any sense at all. You might wake up from a dream that felt really amazing, but when you wake up, you're like, wait a minute, I wouldn't have ever done that. You know, I wouldn't have ever said that, or I didn't even know who those people are. And some of what's happening is they're implanting dreams. They're trying to throw us off because we learn a lot in our dreams. You know, we get a lot of that inner wisdom in our dreams. And there is a dark side that doesn't want us to access. And practicing forgiveness is very important. in this time period. Anything that you can let go of from the past that doesn't feel good, it's a good time to let go of that, because you sure don't want to take it with you into fifth dimension. You know, letting go of old wounds. And some of you may have aches and pains coming up. You know, you may feel some old injury being activated. Sometimes those old injuries relate to emotional pain, and it would be good to work on releasing that, clearing that from your body, you know, getting rid of any kind of old things and forgiving any sort of pain that came along with that. So about the dreams with all the big houses the size of coliseums, I found that really interesting, and I had to stop and go and look this up. But this is a quote from Jesus. "In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you." So that's John 14:2. If you're interested, you may have these Colosseum-sized houses that I feel like we're going to prepare while we go into 5D. And, you know, it's sort of a new agey thing, I guess, to call it fifth dimension and all that. But when I think about the Lord's Prayer, and it says, you know, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven," that always rings in my head, and I really believe all that fits, you know, it's all fitting together. So thank you all so much for coming in to see this video, and to all of you empaths and star seeds and adult indigo children, clairvoyants, all you highly sensitive people, HSPs, and everybody. I love and appreciate each and every one of you so much. So thank you so much for supporting my channel and coming in this afternoon. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you again soon.